Hello, everyone, and welcome to September's President's Live session. My name is Advita Patel, and I am 2025 CIPR's President. And this is my monthly live session where I come to all of you to talk about what's been going on in HQ, what's been going on in our regions, and also invite a couple of guest speakers to talk about a topic of interest. So before I invite our special speakers on stage, I've got a few updates to give from HQ. So some of you would have seen, hopefully on socials, that we had our annual Fellows Lunch at the Gherkin in London last Friday, where we celebrated some of our best industries professionals, and I awarded two of our most prestigious honours as well, the Sir Stephen Talents Medal and the President's Medal. This year I chose Anne-Marie Lacey, for the Sir Stephen Talents Medal for all her work and contribution and dedication to CIPR, not only as someone who has been part of us since student membership, but also everything that she's given back to the institution over the last 15 years and her incredible work on qualifications as well. So congratulations to Anne-Marie. And the President's Medal this year went to Shiraz Gulshah, who is the co-founder of People Like Us. And if you've been to any of Shiraz's events, you know that they are full of vibrancy, representing the underrepresented voices who don't often get to be seen or heard in our profession. So congratulations to both of them. It was an absolute honour to present those medals to those brilliant individuals. We also celebrated our new fellows and also celebrated the folks who recently chartered as well. I was also really pleased to see so many new faces at the Fellows Lunch this time round. And as some of you will know, the Gherkin is a new place for us to host our fellows at a lunch, and it's a great space for collaboration and connection. So if you were there at the Fellows Lunch, then please do complete that feedback form that was sent your way, because we want to make sure that we're continuing to do great events for you. And a huge shout out to Laura Sutherland, who looks after the fellows, and also to Maz and Anna, who planned the entire event as well from HQ. You would have seen, hopefully, that last week was National Inclusion Week, and we're going to talk about that today as well. Jenny Manchester's report, which is an age-old problem, what can we do to tackle ageism in PR, was also produced and released last week. It reveals how older practitioners are facing exclusion, stereotyping, and biased attitudes in the workplace culture and HR processes. Jenny's report also highlights how ageism overlaps with gender discrimination and the compounded challenges women face as they age within the profession. And it isn't just about fairness, it's also about the profession losing experienced talent, valuable perspectives, and also the institutional knowledge because of outdated assumptions about age and capability. The great news about this report is that it offers practical recommendations and also a toolkit which has been developed with the Centre of Aging Better, which will help employers, line managers, and individuals understand how they can create more age-inclusive workplace cultures. So please do check that out. We're going to be talking about this on our live as I introduced our two incredible guests. So please give a warm welcome to Deepa Thomas Sutcliffe and Anjali Patil as well. Welcome, both of you. How are you?
Doing really well and excited about my first time on the CIPR broadcast.
Yay!
Likewise,
I'm excited.
It's my first time, and I'm very happy to be here as well.
Brilliant. That's so good. So Anjali, Deepa asked you to go first. Would you mind giving our viewers a quick update about who you are, a little bit about your background as well?
Sure. So I'm a communications professional working with the Cabinet Office in Manchester. And I'm also the EDI champion for CIPR Northwest, really passionate about inclusion. And I'd say newish to the UK. We got here about 5 years ago.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And you're also an EDI champion, right, for CIPR, which is why we're here today. Anjali.
Yes, so I'm joining you from Pune today. That's a
Oh,
city,
lovely.
kind of a twin city of Mumbai, a lesser-known cousin, but no less vibrant, no less industrialized. And I'm very happy to be here. I have been a career communicator with close to 3 decades of experience, largely in-house. I've specialized in communications for financial services firms, and I've worked with three global powerhouses. And I have also done a stint, longest stint with Ogilvy PR. So I bring experience from both sides, and I've worked in India, but also in Asia, based out of Singapore.
Amazing. Oh, wow. We've got a truly global representation on here today. So that's amazing. So the reason I wanted to talk about inclusion on this specific live stream was because last week we had our inclusion week, and
Yes.
it was an opportunity for our members and non-members, but predominantly members, to state their pledges on what they would like to do in terms of inclusion and how they would build inclusion around them. Now, as you would have seen in the news and probably from conversations you've held with your peers, there's been a lot of challenge around using words like equality, equity, diversity, and inclusion, specifically in Europe, UK, and the USA as well. And some conversations I've held with professionals and practitioners is that there's this almost a fear or a worry of contributing to these types of conversations because people don't know where to start, what to say. They don't want to kind of rock the boat as well, because both of you will have seen there's been quite a lot of polarization in the world right now, and it is continuing to be even more polarized than I've ever experienced in my working career. So, I'll ask you to start, Anjali, if that's okay. When we're
Sure.
talking about everyday inclusion, what behaviors are we talking about here? What behaviors would prove that people are seen and valued? Like, what does it even mean? What are we talking about when we talk about everyday inclusion?
Uh, I will come to that in a minute, Advita, but I think I fully agree with you that it is the polarization is the key word. And while we don't see as much of it in Asia, but we have, I think we need to deal with inclusion a little differently here. And the perspective that I bring from Asia is really what I would say is for us, from what I have seen, uh, it's about everyday small choices that we make. And it's not just about big policy announcements, which stay on paper and don't really filter down or people don't see it making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
I will use an example which might seem uh, pretty straightforward, which is encouraging the quieter voices to speak up in meetings, to share their views.
Mm-hmm.
But, and that might seem simple, doesn't always happen. But in Asia, we find it, like you said, there's an overlap. It's
Mm-hmm.
not just that the person is a quieter person, but there's also this deference to hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
therefore it inhibits people from even contributing. It's not
Mm-hmm.
even, we don't even get to the point of disagreeing with leadership. It's even contributing to the conversation because it's just kind of one way, and I've seen this happen. So I think it's creating that psychological safety, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also actually encouraging people, making the environment such that they're at least opening up.
Yeah.
And otherwise what I've seen happen is when you live in a place like Singapore where there is a lot of multiculturalism, there are people from cultures where it's common to speak up, and there are people from cultures where it is not common to speak up, or rather to not ask at all. And you can see how the conversation then gets dominated by one person. So I think for leaders it's important to have everyone speak. That's
Yeah.
one way of looking at it.
No, and that's a really, really valid point around that psychological safety. It's what I'm hearing as well. Is it safe enough for me to speak up about a topic that can be potentially polarizing? Is it safe for me to ask curious questions about something that other people may be feeling more because of their lived experience? Like, that's so critical. And if those of you who are dipping your toes into psychological safety and you're not sure where to start, then I highly recommend Amy Edmondson's book called The Fearless Organization, where she define, well, she's the guru and the professor that came up with psychological safety. So she's written a book about how you can create this culture of safety, especially if you are a PR or a comms professional who's working in organizations supporting clients, where you have to advise and guide leaders and your peers on communication. Like, what are we saying about this? How are we positioning this? How are we creating this space of safety where people feel like they do belong and feel included in the work that we're doing? So really great points there, Anjali. And just at this point, I do want to say, if you're watching us live, or even if you're watching this on replay, then please do pop into the chat any comments that you might have, any questions that you might have for Deepa and Anjali, or just thoughts. And even if you just want to say a hello and introduce yourselves as well, that'll be fantastic. Deepa, over to you. What do you think? How do you believe inclusion is, and how would you define it?
Yeah, I think Anjali's really good point about the underrepresented voices. How can you champion them, and how can you even think about maybe bring them in as a staff network to consult them on your comms, or, for example, to use them as a bit of a test group or a focus group so that you can get their insights and feedback. But I think there's also other things that we, especially as communication professionals, can do, which is, could we be allies for the people who don't have a voice with senior leaders? And could we actually be that champion to bring those voices to meetings that they may not be part of? Secondly, could we be mentors? All of us have years of experience, that of going through life, and of course through succeeding in different communication and professional pursuits. Can we use that to mentor people? I've definitely benefited from having mentors myself, and also from being a mentee. And you definitely learn so much from the people that you're working closely with, right? Going through, sharing those lived journeys. So I think these are some of the things I'd add to what she said, but also thinking about, can we be really inclusive in our recruitment? Can we make sure we're not, through the language that we put in there, or through the criteria that we put in, or through even the panels that we set up, that we actually are giving a chance to bring in those diverse skill sets. And I'm sure we'll come to soon the opportunity to talk about why inclusion matters and why it's never mattered more than it is ever.
Yeah.
Advita, if I can just add to a point that Deepa made, which is saying, sharing our stories. And a lot of times that there are very few platforms to do that. And if organizations have those, if nothing else, it makes you feel I'm not alone in this. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times I've seen that itself lets people feel a little more empowered than if they were feeling it's just me.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important point too.
It's critical, because you need to be able to give people permission to be able to talk about these topics, because when you don't give people permission, they don't know if they can or should talk about this. And the reason I specifically wanted to talk about inclusion on this live is because last week's Inclusion Week, it was more subdued than we've ever experienced it to be. And I think that is a signal and a bit of a red flag, just demonstrating where we are right now with talking about equity, diversity, and inclusion. We have got some leaders out there who are diminishing the work, I would say, that's taken place so far. And people are a little bit worried about, what does this mean for me in my career? What does this mean if I do speak up about X, Y, and Z? And I think it's really important that we do recognize some of these signals in our own organization. And to your point, Anjali, give people that support, that permission, that validation almost, that it's okay, we can talk about this, and it's important that we do. And to your point, Deepa, surrounding ourselves with mentors and coaches and others who can help us learn more about the work that's taking place. So at this point, I do want to mention an award-winning scheme that CIPR support through our diversity network, reverse mentoring scheme that's in partnership with Taylor Bennett Foundation. And Avril Lee and Surinder, actually, who's the vice chair of the DIN, are working on this. And it's a really incredible program. And they're currently looking for mentors. So if you've got between over 3 to 5 years experience in PR and comms, and mentees. So if you are from the dominant culture, a senior leader who wants to be, who wants to learn more, and he wants to take part in the Rose Mentoring Scheme, then please do check it out. It's going to be launched, I think, at the end of this week. So look out for the information that goes out there. But that scheme is incredible, and we've had such fantastic feedback, and it's 6 years it's been running now. So things like that is what I would encourage some participation in as well. So we've spoken a little bit about some friction that might be taking place right now that's stopping people, I suppose, talking about what's happening or contributing to the conversation that they feel adds a bit of value. So Deepa, from your perspective, what are the friction points for comms people specifically? Because that is who we're working with and supporting when it comes to talking about inclusion. What do you think is people are facing? And if you are watching, please do share your thoughts, and feel free to DM privately as well if you feel more comfortable doing that.
Sure. So I think some of it is just down to things like what I'd call business pressures, having to move fast, not enough time, and wanting to do the right thing, but maybe not having enough awareness of the audiences and their individual needs and concerns, maybe even not tailoring your communication and assuming one size fits all. So there's I don't know if I'm being generous here, but I'd like to say that people basically want to do the right thing, but they perhaps lack that understanding. So what are the things you could do differently to tackle some of these pressures? One, most of all, is could you have, I'm a big fan of staff networks, both from being a part of them, but also from just seeing the value that they can add to you as a communication professional. So can you use staff networks to kind of test your communications with making sure that it's always tailored to the different audiences? Could you have templates? And think about how can you really either educate yourself, upskill yourself, or have those go-to subject matter experts that you can test things with. And I know that there's some great EDI guides and resources that CIPR provides for free for everybody. So really encourage people to use that to learn more about inclusive language or inclusive events or other aspects of inclusive communication.
Brilliant, and great shout out to those booklets actually, because it is an incredible resource, and like you said, it's accessible to everyone on the on-demand platform, and I highly recommend you check them out if you haven't done so. Just seen a comment from Rob Dyson. I'm just going to pop it on here so we can see. So Rob is saying that it's a useful conversation, and that's the other area about if you are a freelance or a consultant as well, about how you can contribute to the conversation. So Rob's saying, as a white man working across clients that represent different communities outside of his own privilege, he wants to be an ally and champion allyship and inclusion. So that's so, you know what, Rob, you even sharing that publicly is warming my heart, to be honest with you, because that's what allyship is. Allyship is showing up, allyship is listening, allyship is speaking up on behalf, sometimes with the community, and not allowing the underrepresented voices to consistently keep championing this space. It's for the dominant cultures to also participate and support and champion this work as well. So we really appreciate your comments, Rob, and thank you so much for joining us. Anjali, anything to add to what Deepa shared?
I'll build on one of her points, which is about the time pressure. And I think she's right. I mean, I think people have strong intentions and good intentions, but sometimes campaigns come at such a last minute, or they're given to you with very little time. And that really squeezes out inclusion. It just sidelines it because the deadline is more important than trying to adapt the campaign or ensuring that everybody's represented. So I think that's definitely a friction point. And you end up going back to the default narrative in that case, even if the intention was there, because you just don't have the time for it. So that just fully agree with Deepa on that point. I think the other point that I will make is this, you referenced it a bit when you talked about what's going on right now in organizations, and that is just the fear of getting it wrong.
Yeah.
So the language of EDI is evolving so rapidly that keeping up with it and making sure you're being correct, you're not giving offense, you're trying to do the right thing, but there's a possibility that it might backfire, and just stopping yourself saying, okay, maybe take the easy way out. So it's what we see on the ESG side as well. It's called green hushing or green shushing, which is rather than have the activists at my door, I would rather keep quiet, because that way nobody gets hurt. And I think just in terms of organizations, agencies putting in the effort to bring in that education, because it really is fast moving. I struggle sometimes. And if I'm writing something about EDI, whether even if it's a short sentence, I will go back and reference, at least do a Google search and reference 3 or 4 articles before I'm 100% sure that that's how I'm supposed to reference it.
Yeah.
So I think that is a big thing to watch out for, because it just puts brakes on the whole thing.
It does. And I also want to say that, you will get it wrong. We will get it wrong. We may use clumsy language. We may make mistakes. We may not be able to define what we're trying to say or articulate it in the way we want to. Most people are fairly forgiving. And if somebody does call you out on it, accept it, learn and move on. I think it's really important that we don't put ourselves on this pedestal of perfection when it comes to this topic, because we'll never get there. As you said, Anjali, it's ever evolving. It moves so quick. There's different, we talk specifically about our own lived experiences, right? So we're all Asian women, of a certain career experience. So the intersectionalities of what we talk about is also really important. And what I find interesting about inclusion is that it impacts everyone, every single person. There is no one who's going to get away with it, right? There's nobody. It talks about age, it talks about disability, it talks about race, it talks about neurodiversity.
Absolutely, yeah.
It talks about well-being. It's all of that. And I think sometimes people forget that it isn't just about the color of your skin, which is incredibly important, by the way, but its inclusion is for every single human. Because at some point, whether you belong to the dominant culture or not, you're going to experience something that's going to exclude you from some conversations, whether that's age, which is why Jenny Manchester's report is so critically important. Whether it's disability, my good friend Mark Webb talks about the fact that majority of us are going to face some sort of disability as we age. We're an aging population. Those things are so critically important, which is why we need to get it right in the way we talk about it in organizations, because we're all going to be influenced by it at some point or another. And it's important to remember that and acknowledge that. Okay, so
Advita, I want to bring in one point here, which is, you said language will be clumsy. We might get it wrong, but the point is to learn and move on.
Yeah.
But at an individual level, possibly, okay. But when you're working for a client or you're working in-house, it's really hard, because there's no forgiving if there's a backlash. So you have
I agree. I completely agree. We need to do the research, but I would hate for anyone to fear speaking up about a topic unless they're 100% comfortable about that topic, because we'll never will be. And I think that's what stops most organizations talking about topics, because they believe we're not 100% comfortable about this. You never will be. This topic, nobody will ever be 100% comfortable. I think it's been mindful. I think it's been sensible. I think it's doing your due diligence. And I think it's asking the experts around you and making sure that you get representative views when you speak up about it. But if you're waiting for 100% perfection, it's never going to happen. We could talk about this for hours by the time. Time is flying. But I just want to address this question. If we can end on some practical tips. How can agencies convince clients that EDI isn't just a nice to have, but a business driver? Deepa, you work in-house. What's your thoughts?
So I think my biggest thing is that inclusion, there's a real business case for it. One, like you said, it applies to everybody. And among the many things its benefits include things like you have a more diverse employee set, you can serve your customers better. This itself is really important. Your overall employee engagement and satisfaction goes up. You're much more representative of that wider community in which you work and operate. So that's really important, because then you can bring those lived experiences and tailor things in a much better way than if you were only of one particular representation. There's a lot more innovation, lots more creative thinking, better decision making. I mean, I could go on and on. I think the biggest thing I could say is that it's not just about how to do the inclusion, but it's also like making a business case to say why inclusion matters and making sure people understand that it's not something that you're doing just because it's a regulatory need. For example, all communication needs to be accessible. That's regulated. That's not the only reason you need to do the right thing. You're actually getting a huge amount of business benefits, and ultimately customers and companies are always going to think about the business benefit and show them that business benefit to get the buy-in you need.
Yeah, and spot on what you shared there. There's loads of research reports out there, which I'll share in the links as well, that you can build into your business case. Anjali, from your perspective.
Yeah, 2 or 3 points building on what Deepa shared already. I think inclusion leads to a sense of belonging. And when you feel that, there's a direct impact on productivity of employees. So, I mean, even from an employee perspective, which is what we are talking about. So that's a strong business case versus people trying to deal with what's going on or the fallout of being non-inclusive. You've already talked about research shows how companies fare better. And this has been seen not only, we've known that there's wide coverage given to gender diversity and the impact on companies' performance. But for a webinar I did about a few months ago on cultural diversity showing the same impact is also researched and proven. Deepa talked about ERGs. One of the speakers on that webinar talked about not just campaigns, but how businesses and while launching new products can test out. So these are really feeding into as really as focus groups in-house. And lastly, I think also from the employer brand perspective, because if you're going to attract the right kind of talent and want to retain it, then from an employer brand perspective, there's no stronger business driver that you need than that.
Perfect. Thank you. And I would just add one thought to this, is that if we didn't think about inclusion and make sure that everyone feels included in the work that they're doing, then what's the consequences? And I can guarantee from both what Anjali and Deepa shared, the consequences will hit the bottom line. So it's if you really dig deep and look at actually helping people feel included and belong in this workspace has allowed us to have more creativity, more innovation, more higher performance. You know, when people are generally more fulfilled and know when they're adding value at work, you're going to instantly impact your performance. And when people are feeling connected, they will be generally more engaged and will deliver great results. So that, you know, there is lots of stuff out there which we will share, but just think about what are the consequences of not having people who don't feel that they're included in the conversation. Deepa, Anjali, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts so openly. If people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Really happy to LinkedIn. Yeah, I would say
LinkedIn for me too.
Amazing. Okay, we'll make sure we share your contact details in the comments as well. Thank you, both of you, so much for your time and energy, and for everything, by the way, that you're doing for CIPR as EDI champions, and all the kind of value and the wealth of knowledge you're bringing to our community to help us be better in the work that we're doing in this space. So thank you both so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Advita. Been a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, before we sign off this President's Live, it wouldn't be a President's Live if I didn't do some celebration and recognition for some of the fab things that have been going on. First of all, huge congratulations to everyone who has recently received their qualifications. I know many of you have been doing your certificates and your diplomas, and I saw the post go out the other day about congratulating. We had more than 80 people graduate. So well done if you're one of those folks. That is incredible achievement. I also want to say a huge well done to, let me get it up here, all our chartered professionals who have just recently been chartered. Let me take that comment down so you can see everyone's name. So well done, all of you. This is incredible work, and I know how much investment goes into getting your chartership. So congratulations to all of you as well. I also, before I forget, I've got my notes here so I don't get anything wrong. I want to say a huge well done. CIPR Scotland recently awarded the Hamilton Young Communicator Award to Cameron Ward from Hollywood PR. Well done, Cameron. I know these awards are really prestigious, and it's incredible that you've been awarded with this. So you're doing some fantastic work. And also to Caroline Binney, who got the Ian Caldwell Lifetime Contribution Award. Huge congratulations to both of you for those awards. Well done to Surinder Kaur. I mentioned Surinder before, who's part of the reverse mentoring scheme with Avril Lee and the Diversity Network. She recently received the Changemaker Award at the Pro Awards last week. So well done to all of you. Here are our, look at these scores, the top 10 loggers, absolutely amazing. Marita, you are 493 CPD points, way ahead of our end of year CPD, but well done to all of you for logging your CPD. You're definitely putting me to shame, and I need to get cracking with my CPD log as well. Before I tune off for this session, I also want to say that the independent practitioner groups, I don't know if some of you know this, but we've got an independent practitioner group now for CIPR, led by Sarah Taylor and Miranda Rockstar. If you are interested in finding out more about that independent practitioner network, please do check them out. But they've got a chartership event that's taking place on Friday on why freelancers and chartered professionals should get qualified. So please do check that out. I'll make sure the links and all that are in the comments so you can click quite easily. Huge shout out also. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. Oh, support available. I want to highlight some practical support that's available for our CIPR members. So we've introduced measures to help members manage financial pressures, including payment breaks, reduced fees, a 12-month membership holiday, and CPD credits for those who are on parental leave. A shout out to iProvision. So iProvision is the charitable arm of CIPR, who also is there to help anybody facing serious financial difficulty. They also offer free training, mental health resource, and flexible options for smaller agencies as well. So you can find out all those benefits on our website under the membership benefits, but we'll share the link there. If you do have any kind of spare pennies around them, please do consider donating to iProvision. James, who chairs the board, is doing some incredible work with his committee on raising the visibility of iProvision, and they're doing some absolutely brilliant work in helping our community get the support that they need. Thank you, everybody, for your time, for the comments, for your energy today. Thank you again to Deepa and Anjali for joining me on this session today on this very important topic. If you do have any questions about what we've discussed today, or you need some support, or you're wondering where you can get hold of those resources, then you can email me at president@cipr.co.uk. Feel free to pop your comment in the comments as well, and I'm sure the HQ team will get back to you with the resources. I will be back again end of next month for my October President Live. If there's a specific topic you would like us to discuss, or if you'd like to join me on one of these lives, then please do drop me a note. Thank you, everybody, and I will see you next time. Take care of yourselves.